Hello YouTubers, this is me here once again with another one of my James Bond reviews. Now, I remember last time I said I'd probably do this. I didn't know if I'd change up the format or not or make these multiple videos, but as you can see, it's pretty much this one. I'm just going to do this for the rest of the series, and then in the future if I ever want to change the format, maybe talk about the series and like multiple movies at once, I might do that. Uh, but yeah, so today we are looking at, as you can read down below, is For Your Eyes Only, the 12th James Bond movie. It may be one of the more controversial Bond films for just simple facts of stuff that happened in it. Uh, it was released June 26th, 1981, directed by John Glenn, starring Roger Moore as Bond, Carol Bouquet as Melina Havlik, Topol as Milos Colombo, Lynn Holly Johnson as Bibi Dull, Julian Glover as Christos, and Cassandra Harris as Lisa. Now, the plot to the film is that a sub went down and Bond is sent to find a communication device before the Russians do. He meets Melina, whose parents were murdered, and must find the device, which I took from IMDb. There's the plot for the movie. It's very simple, very straightforward, but For Your Eyes Only really did take a lot of stuff from. Took a couple short stories from the book, For Your Eyes Only, and put them in a plot for a movie that, I don't know, it just. There's parts of this movie that are really good, and there's parts of this that just fall completely flat. Now, you might say, why are the Russians mentioned in this again? Which, for all you history buffs out there, in 1979, the USSR, Soviet Union, invaded Afghanistan. And that really did, unlike previous Bond movies where it seemed there was a little bit of cooperation there, all that was done by them invading Afghanistan. It really restarted the Cold War. But yeah, it is what it is. Now, the beginning sequence, the Blofeld sequence, where James Bond puts his flowers on Teresa's grave. Now, I'm not sure if this was shot actually before Moonraker, which a lot of For Your Eyes Only was supposed to be the next movie after The Spy Who Loved Me, but it turned out that Moonraker was the next movie, and this would have been the 10-year anniversary of On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Now, would have I liked to see them go this way? Maybe so, but it showed what I'll say one of the most stupidest Bond things that they ever did was they tried to insinuate Blofeld's his mastermind. He's this great criminal mastermind who, even in Diamonds Are Forever, you never quite know if he's dead or not. It's always hanging. So it's always coming back. But to do this in this movie right at the beginning with a character like Blofeld, it just died on me. It's like this was completely bullshit stupid. He hijacks a helicopter or whatever, and then Bond gets the upper hand, drives it up, picks him up, and this is just 80s cinema. That I really feel it wasn't that great. Like, they did not need, it had nothing to do with the movie, it had nothing to do with anything. It just seemed like, why is this in here? And that's really the thing I got from it. Another thing is about this film, they wanted to go in a different direction and really did want to go somewhere else different with it, sort of almost scale it back. And they went back to the sort of Sean Connery formula they wanted to. Now, my question is with this, is if they wanted to do that, why didn't they replace Bond completely? Like, bring in maybe a character that's more suited? Because out of all this stuff I'll talk about, the one thing that really does not work well in this film is the Roger Moore doesn't feel like he's comfortable or that he wants to do this role, really, is the feeling I get from it. Now, the good parts of this, let's go through some pros and cons of this movie, in a way. The scenes, the stunts, and the chase scenes are absolutely done well. Really well. Almost to the point where it's like, this could actually be a very damn good movie. The only part that really it worked well, like even the parts where it shows the plane coming in, helicopter, machine gun on the boat to kill her parents, that was a very effective scene. And you look at it, and I think, well, what happened to this movie that made it go off the rails? And the same thing I'll say about a lot of 1980s James Bond film. It's 1980s cinema. To anyone who does not know what I'm talking about, you've had to have watched a lot of 80s cinema to know where I'm coming from with this, is that it's just over the top. Too over the top in parts. But that scene was good. The car chase with the Cuban villain and all that or whatever was very good. Even when James Bond goes in, you see Roger Moore and Q. And by this time you're thinking, okay, Q and Lois Maxwell, who played Moneypenny. Moneypenny's been there since the beginning. And the guy who plays Q had been there since From Russia with Love, I believe. So it really didn't work too well. Other parts of the movie that I really enjoyed was the character Christos. I enjoyed him as a villain. Is that it starts off, he starts helping Bond, and then halfway through, two-thirds of the way through the movie, the switch. And it really worked well. But once again, poor stuff in this movie. Acting very well. Was not very good. It really... I can't say it hasn't been a good part of Bond, because even though a lot of Bonds, you might say, well, the acting in it wasn't that great. Even for a Bond film, the acting was kind of... And, yeah, they grossed $195.3 million with this movie and everything. That's a lot of money. Even for back then, that was a ton of money. 193, even for now, 191 or 95.3 million. That's a lot of dough. Other stuff that happened. This actually also signified an end of a Hollywood premiere for this movie. There was no Hollywood premiere. The premiere was done in England with the royal family there. Prince Charles and Diana were at the premiere of it, which was a big deal, even in England. And anything else I can really say about this film? Once again, music at certain parts, it was like, didn't need to be there. Really didn't need to be there. But other than that, there's not really bad stuff about this movie. Is it one of the best James Bond movies? Oh, hell no. Is it one of the worst James Bond movies? Borderline. I went back, watched this, and I actually enjoyed this a lot more than I previously had at a lot of times. Maybe it was just my mood at the time, I don't know. But it really did work well, and this is one of those films for Bond that what started off a new decade, but I still cannot get over the fact you had to replace him. If you're going in this direction, you had to replace Roger Moore. Now, some people would say, Roger Moore, oh my god, he's Bond. Like, how do you replace James Bond? Perfectly. You replace him with Timothy Dalton, the guy who came in for The Living Daylights. He would have been the perfect guy to do all 5 movies for the decade. And it wouldn't have been as, let's say, came to the point where in Octopussy, it felt old. At least Dalton, maybe right then and there, would have had a little bit of that Connery. That's what I noticed about the 2 movies he did. He sort of had that Connery feel to him. And I think that's what this needed. If you were going back to the Connery days, why not just replace him with an actor that could do it better? And that's one of my knocks always on Roger Moore. I just don't... Not to say he didn't have any good movies. Live and Let Die were good. Most of The Man with the Golden Gun was actually pretty good. Moonraker was good. This was decent. Spy Who Loved Me was absolute crap. Now, you won't hear me say that much about movies, but if a movie puts you to sleep, you know it's a bad movie. But this one, yeah. There's a lot of different stuff in this, like the music. You could tell musically that it was a new decade. It was new, but was it any good? I'm not sure about that. The girls in the movie. Okay, here's another thing I want to talk about. When you have this girl who's like going for the gold medal and she's like looks like she's 16 or 18 or whatever, and you have Bond there who I believe at this point was just about 50. It kind of didn't work. Just did not work, and that's pretty much all I got to say about For Your Eyes Only. This is me again, once again. I'm probably going to do Octopussy here within the next week. And, oh yes, another thing. This is the last James Bond movie featuring Bernard Lee, the original M, which, to see what we got in the 90s, thank God. And to hear that Judi Dench wants to come back as M, if I have one wish for Bond in the future, please no more Judi Dench. I fucking hate her as an actor. She sucks. She's terrible and isn't believable. So yeah, that's me. Yep, that's my thoughts and opinions and review of For Your Eyes Only by James Bond. Be sure to like, favorite, comment, subscribe down below. Once again, peace.